Welcome to Under the Microscope. I'm your host, Jenny Germano. Thank you for joining me today. Today is Under the Microscope Operator Series. I really love doing this series and getting a chance to sit down with operators. But before I jump in, I'm just going to give you a little bit about my background. My name is Jenny Germano, and I got my start working in the cannabis industry in 2009, working in vertically integrated cannabis operations. And in 2015, I founded my company, ICS Consulting Service, where I help new operators get ready for operational readiness and to launch their cannabis facility. Today, I have a fireside chat with Beatrice Carranza, the founder of Bachaz Mexican edible brand. Thank you, Beatrice, for joining me today.
Thank you, Jenny, for having me here today in your podcast.
I'm excited. So why don't you go ahead and give our listeners a little background about what were you doing before the cannabis industry and your journey to get into the cannabis industry?
I started off with my background in social work. I'm totally new to the cannabis industry, but within social work, you always think about making a difference within the community. Being here in the cannabis industry, that's something as well that it's inspiring to bring those skills in here. And we created the first bilingual product within the cannabis industry because we noticed in 2022 that there was no product that was more targeted to my community, my people. There was nothing they could understand or actually identify themselves with. So that's where I decided in 2022 to see what would it take to create an edible, the first brand bilingual in Colorado. And since 2022, I've used all those skills that I have gained within my past, and we've been 3 years in the market, and we are in total of 15 dispensaries right now. And we're bringing the first authentic flavor edible gummy into the cannabis industry here in Colorado.
I love that. Congratulations, 3 years. It probably seems like forever. I love hearing that. I wanted to talk a little bit about some things that I read. One of the things that you said is that Chaz is Spanish for slang for marijuana roach. I thought that was interesting.
Yes, in Spanish slang, it is the last piece of a marijuana joint, which is also the most intense, savory part. Just like our name, we are small to this industry, but we got lots of flavor to offer.
That's so good. And I read that you recently were awarded THC Classic 2025.
Yeah, so that was something that was not even planned in this whole process, the Bachaz journey, but it was 8 months that we were in dispensaries, and we did get invited to the THC Classic competition. At that time, when we got the invitation, I really didn't want to participate because it was me going against the big brands. And being new to this industry, I thought to myself, there's not going to be a possibility for me to compete with them. But my husband encouraged me to go ahead and introduce the product, to not lose my faith on what I was doing, and that he did believe in our product. So we went and entered our products to the THC Classic, and one of them earned the THC Classic Best Judges Award, which was our Tamarindo Chamois, the first product that we introduced to the cannabis industry within 8 months, and they really loved the flavors. So it's just incredible to see how much we have grown, and that there is a lot of people that actually do enjoy our flavors, and that we have a product that people really want to savor.
I think that's amazing. Behind every amazing woman is a good man supporting her. And I love that your husband pushed you to do that. He's a smart man. So congratulations. Uh,
I'll let him know.
what a great reward. And because you're a small business, that's good feedback, right? That people were trying your product and they liked your flavors, which I think is really important. That's great free marketing research, right? Not only did you get an award, but you got all this incredible feedback about your product from consumers, which I think I'm pretty sure consumers were testing the product, right?
Yes, and it was a blind competition as well. So that's the even more exciting part of it. It's they didn't even see our packaging. the innovative bilingual packaging we have. It was the flavor that they fell in love with and selected it. And I just think sometimes we hold ourselves back on things because we are not maybe where we expect to be, or compare yourself with the big brands, but it's not losing like your vision on what you created and the faith you have for it. Because, like you said, if I wouldn't have done what my husband did, I would have never known that. Hey, your product, it is amazing, Beatrice. Don't lose your focus. It's inspiring, and continue doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win situation, right? It never hurts to try something. The worst that can happen is nothing happens. Actually, people like your product and you win a reward and get more recognition and people requesting your product. And so I think that's a wonderful tool to use as a small business. And there's something to be said about going up against the bigger companies, right? I love small businesses. I think there are a lot of people out there in the cannabis industry across the United States that want to support smaller businesses and smaller manufacturing companies and brands. And that's amazing that you took that opportunity to go and compete against them. And I think the blind test is even better because you can't really see who you're going up against. I think what I like about your brand is that you're really about packing in those flavors. I think it's important connecting with those flavors and the smells for anyone who grew up in household or you come from a family that did a lot of cooking and there's specific spices that you grew up with.
Yes, I think that's what makes our culture similar, I would say, yours and mine, because it's something that your grandma taught you, like home, those flavors. You grow up with them, and sometimes you leave that home, right? And you lose those flavors. But it's so nice and so nostalgic once you try that flavor that you've had in your childhood at home that brings that memory. So it makes that kind of treat even more special.
I love that. I wanted to ask you what your why is. I've been talking a lot about this lately, like how important it is for operators to have a why. And your why is just your reason that you're doing this. Like, why is it so important to you? Because you have to face challenges all the time in your business. What is it that keeps you getting up and wanting to keep going no matter how hard it gets?
So I think that the why for me would be that I started Bachaz in 2022 because I didn't see anything in the cannabis space that truly represented my community. So I created the first bilingual edible product. And like I said, we've only been in the market for 11 months, and you can find us in total of 50 dispensaries with more on the way because with Bacha is more flavorful. That's my why. I didn't see the product, right? So it's my consumer not being educated, my consumer, my people not knowing about the benefits behind cannabis. All what we've have been taught as growing up within our community is cannabis is bad, and no matter what, it's bad, you shouldn't consume it. But they need to also be aware about the benefits on how it can help someone if you do take cannabis.
The
So that's my
stigma.
why.
You're trying to help people understand to not be so afraid. One of my questions, I was curious about the journey to have this bilingual packaging because you're the first in the country to do this in the United States, right?
I haven't done that research. I believe so, but we are the first one in Colorado for sure. And it was something that I think just needed to get done. They were not thinking about Latino community that sometimes not all of us understand English, and how more to educate them if we have a product that they can go ahead and just grab, read what's behind it, how they can take it, what ingredients they are, what's going to do, and then feel more comfortable on enjoying that or taking that to help them at sleep, relax.
Were you involved at all with getting that passed through the regulations, with getting the bilingual language on the packaging?
That was something that I was lucky for. I did read all the rules that's behind on creating that label, how to create that label and pass regulations. It says there that we could add another language as
Yeah.
long as it's in English. So then it's more adding to my label, it's more expense to my packaging, but we want to get that message across in reference that not everything has to be, yeah, we'll follow your rules, the English, but then also we're going to educate the consumer we're targeting, and we want to educate as well. So it was just
Yeah.
putting everything more, creating more space into the label, and just make sure that we are with compliance.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did a bilingual label. I wanted to talk about your journey of getting operational and getting the license. I wanted to know how long did it take you to get the license? And then from then when you got the license, how long before you were able to open your door and do that first production batch to when you were going to be able to sell dispensaries?
And that's a question that everybody would love to know. It's not an easy process as I thought, as going out and hearing the stories of other operators getting into the industry. I thought it was going to be an easy process and I'll be making lots of money within a year. That was not how it happened. We started our vision back in 2022 when I heard about the social equity program, and I heard Mr. Michael Diaz Riveras on the news mentioning about the new social equity program and the ways that you could qualify for that program. So, similar to your background, I'm like, we had the same struggles. We qualified for this program. I studied and read the application on what I needed to submit for social equity. It was the longest. I think it took me 8 weeks for me to get that approval, the social equity designation. But the most lengthy part was getting actual like the background to attach to that application.
Oh,
Like reaching out, looking your background, digging into your past, which I really didn't want to open that past. But in order to qualify for this program, you had to show what had cost you to
yeah,
qualify. So I did that. That took me, I think, maybe 4 weeks to get all that information back from Arizona. And I submitted. Took 8 weeks after I got that designation. Then it was like, okay, now what business you want to do? They had a TCC cannabis program offered by Miss Sarah Whitson back then, which
mhm,
was the incredible program I took. And that program would help. It's a technical assistant program, the first one they did. It would give you like the guidance on what compliance, what regulations, what kind of information money you need as well to have this license and this business. So then from there, you had your vision, then you continue with it or you changed it because things were not as easy as you were expecting.
yeah,
Um, so I think that took me a couple of months to finish all their week while I was saying to finish their program. But while I was doing that, I also started to look for a facility. To find a kitchen, it took me a year. And we're in 2023. I couldn't still find a place, and that social equity licensee, it was only given for us for 1 year, so it was about to expire. The good thing they did through that phase was they extended it for the 2 year social equity licensee, which was
yeah,
giving me that more of the peace in mind that I still had a whole year to continue looking for a facility. So it was a whole year, and they were talking. I think it was July that I found her kitchen, met with the landlord. It's a 640 square feet, not big, but it's just perfect for us to start
yeah.
out. Met the landlord. I told him about my vision and what I wanted to introduce. And he totally supported me compared to every other landlord that had said no to me.
Wow.
But the only thing with him, I had to wait, I think, 3 months before the lease, the person that was in here could go ahead and their lease was about to expire and we could come in.
Oh,
So then I still had to wait for that, still, even though I had a place. So we're looking 3 months. Then we're signed the lease November of 2023. When I signed my lease, I still had to make sure that I had everything in compliance for the 6, I think, or 7 inspections we have to go through before we get our city
yeah.
license. Yeah, the city license. So that took me about 6 months trying to get everything what they're requiring, still paying that rent. Still didn't know if I was going to be getting the license. Still have to bring all the equipment that I need to by the time they do those inspections and I can pass that inspection too. And now we are in March. All those licenses passed, and now I could apply for the state. So I think it took maybe, I think, 5 weeks to get that approval. So then we got that approval April, like the second week of April of 2024. So we got our
Wow.
license, but then it's okay. Now we need to get the insurance for their product because now we have a product. So now let's pay that. big chunk of money towards the license, to the insurance. That was a month. Then getting R&D on our product. And then from there, make sure we get introduced to dispensaries. But the good thing that I was doing at that time in 2024, I was about to finish the Bible Camp second program. And in that time, I met Andrew with Raspberries, which is also a social equity business.
Yeah.
So I did tell him about my product. He really liked the concept behind the bachas and the flavors and the impact. So he took our product the first time, and it took us about a month from the day that we passed those labs to get it into the dispensary. So that was 2022 when I started, and then 2024 we're in first dispensaries. The thing is, it took me 2 long years that I never thought it was going to take me that long, but I couldn't quit because I had already started my license, and I have put 2 years to it.
Gosh, 2 years. That's a lot. And then how many months did you pay rent where you couldn't operate yet?
And I think we did 8 months.
Wow. That's a dedication and commitment. Some people would give up. I
Yes.
think operators across the country, micro business, social equity licenses, small businesses go through exactly what you're describing in some cases where they are. And you like your landlord, you like your location. It took you a while to find the location. And now you're 11 months with product on the shelf. So that's going to feel really good.
Yes, it feels great. It's now like we're in the, I would say, almost on the top of that roller coaster that we were. It took us a lot, a long time and effort when we just started. But now we're celebrating the successes we're having. It's still not
Wow.
easy because we all think that introducing a product could just be like a general product introduction to a store. That once you introduce it by next week, that product or even less would be already selling and their shelves. But here it could take up to six. I've heard of even up to 8 months. But the longest it's taken me to get into a dispensary has been 6 months.
Wow. 6 months
Six
to get on
months.
the
So it's to get on their shelves.
Are you the salesperson too, or do you have somebody that helps you with sales?
No, right now, everything is myself. I do have quality control, my packaging, my husband. But he has the career, yeah. But we do everything by like ourselves. Like I said, it's been 3 years, 3 years of not receiving that revenue that we hope for, 3 years of paying bills, and they keep on piling up month after month. So right now it's just us trying to do everything ourselves. I do marketing, I do production, I do basically everything myself.
Sound like an entrepreneur. I mean,
Oh, and then I
um,
and we think that going into a business is gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be fun. I won't have a boss. I'm gonna be working less hours. And now it's the other way around. You're like, now we have to work all those hours or even more because if you don't do it, then your business is gonna go down.
it's true. Being a boss had rose-colored glasses almost. Like you think it sounds exciting, and then you get in there and you're like, oh wait, who's gonna do all this stuff? Oh, me,
I
I have to do all this stuff. Holy cow, I gotta be the accountant, the person washing the dishes, taking the garbage out, marketing, selling my product, quality control, compliance, SOPs. Oh, I got to handle all my inspections.
And then with the cannabis, a lot of people don't know you're also coming to an industry that you're going to be advocating. You're going to be talking to politicians. You're going to be fighting for this industry. And it's something that it's not being told at the beginning or nobody is aware. But if you're not comfortable with public speaking or getting out of your comfort zone, this is going to be a really tough industry for you. When I first started, even though I did have public speaking within events or within my work, but I never had to do it like the way I'm doing it. And doing this, it's not fun all the time. You expect a lot from yourself because there's people seeing you and they're following your journey.
I think it's really important that people do really understand if you do not like getting out of your comfort zone, if you do not like being uncomfortable, if you do not like change, if you do not like challenges, the cannabis industry is definitely not going to be for you.
Yeah.
If you want it to be relaxing, easy peasy, it's just the wrong business to do. I don't know if you've seen that saying out there that life really begins outside of the comfort zone. And even though it's scary, right, and challenging, it's also exciting at the same time to go through the experience. And so I'm really glad that you brought that up. But I think it is important for people who might be starting a new business to really consider that, do I like getting out of my comfort zone? And am I a problem solver? So we talked a little bit how our background, we both worked in the restaurant industry, hospitality, and you learn a lot from working in the restaurant industry. Working in the restaurant
Yeah.
industry is not easy. You did it for a long time. I did it for a long time. And I think that's where your skill set comes in. It's not for the faint of heart. Restaurants are long hours. You work holidays. You're on your feet all the time. Even if you're in the kitchen or you're the front of the house, it's a very challenging industry. And then you bring that over to cannabis. It's the same thing, same environment, except we have a regulated product that we're dealing with and we're adding that layer of regulation on it. But you're still serving customers, or you're still making food, or in this way, you're manufacturing food and you're packaging it up.
I was gonna say that's a perfect example of never thought about it. In the restaurant industry, you wear several hats. You never just wear that one hat or that they gave you when they hired you that position. So now that you say it, coming into the cannabis industry, you do wear all the hats. They have to be done, but it's more easier for me because I had to be flexible and wear all the hats that were given to me at that time. Then now it's just like doing that same thing, but now it's my baby. It makes me happy to do it. And like you said, if I don't do it, then who's gonna do it? It's gonna be really happy at all times. Be positive.
Yeah, and I also think with your background and watching your parents work hard and all the different businesses and all the different things that they did, you learn that skill set early on. I think it's a really important skill set for everyone to have because it instills grit into you. I think it's important to have grit to make it through the industry because it helps you handle the ups and downs. I think the restaurant industry, you do have to wear a lot of hats. It's almost literally the same thing, except we're regulated and we have a bunch of cameras everywhere. They don't really have 90 cameras in restaurants like they do in a manufacturing or dispensary. Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that the cameras, a lot of people don't know, but it was like over $5,000 to get our camera system installed, and I still didn't have my license at that point.
Oh my
So
gosh.
sometimes we like budget and we think, oh, okay, with this money, I'm going to be able to create my business. But within the cannabis industry, even though you have that budget, it's not going to work out because there's so much that you have to pay towards that you don't even know until you're on that time or under that inspection.
I actually like that you brought that up because I think sometimes people, they start with a number. What is used for good math? $50,000. Oh, $50,000. I'm going to divide that up and I'm going to put $10,000 in a bucket. It's all 5 buckets, and 10,000 goes here and 10,000 goes there. But what they don't realize is that your plan is going to change. And now you're going to have to take $10,000 out of another bucket to put, because now it's $10,000 more, or $5,000 more than you thought it was going to be. So, like, what kind of advice can you give for somebody who's trying to budget for their small business, or if they're doing a micro license, or if they're in a social equity program?
I think you can stretch your money as more as just getting it with budgeting. It's getting an idea of how much. I think Denver right now has a technical assistant program. And I think that's one of the things they implemented this time. It's like on budgeting. Are you going to be able to afford this new business? Are you going to be able to pay your rent? And now with the experience, I think as social equity went through that phase and brought that information back to them, they created this program where they're coming in, they're going to know, okay, for this business, you're going to need this much money. And these are the kind of inspections are going to be done because I think that's what they help you with as well. And then how much money you're going to be needing. And if they have that, I think it's more either you go into business or not, because it's giving you an idea of how much money you're going to be expecting to expend. Sometimes, like you said, it's that budget of 50, but then you realize, hey, it's going to be 150 more. And it's going to take me this much to get into the dispensary. It's not going to be as soon as I get my license that I'm going to be cutting and cashing that check. It's going to take a couple of months still to even get a payment. Some dispensaries are paying 90 days out. And as a small business, that can hurt you. Some do pay 14 days, some 30. My average right now are 30, but I've been talking to other brands and there are some of them in 90 days. So that all this, it's a lot of things to think about and take in consideration, that it's not as easy as everybody or you would assume it would be. Just comparing it to other businesses, it's not as fast growing as any other business.
I think payments definitely are an issue. The last operator I interviewed, he was having issues with getting paid by dispensaries. And I think it's a challenge when you're small. You're 11 months in and you're trying to expand to get into more dispensaries. What are you supposed to do? Because you could say, I can only do COD. To me, the strap would be, what if they walk away and they won't put me on their shelf because I am COD? And now I've just eliminated being on a dispensary shelf, and they're very strict and they only have 90 days. And I think sometimes that's unfair to small businesses. I don't think dispensaries should do that because at the end of the day, you're not a bank. It's not your job to loan dispensaries money for your product. If I walked into a grocery store, I couldn't say, hey, can I get net terms on this container of product cheese? They would look at me and think I was crazy.
Yes.
But yet, for some reason in the cannabis industry, we've created this kind of this monster in a sense. It's a product, it's not a service. A service is something different, right? If you're consulting or providing a service, like net terms would make sense or a payment plan. I think it's very challenging and I think it's really crushing small businesses, a lot of operators right now. And I think it got to be even more challenging when you're first starting off because you're scared to lose that business if you're trying to build your brand. So you're stuck in this weird situation.
Yes, it's one of those tough things that come with that we learn along the way within the industry. But yeah, I wish I could. At first, it was okay, you pay within the 14 days. And they were like, oh, no, like I'm not interested. But then it was like, okay, I do have a net 30 if you're interested. And those ones were like, okay, yes. And you see what dispensary. So what do I do? Do I lose that possible sale or do I wait longer to get that payment and then work with this dispensary too? But then I'm not sure. Like you said, what are we creating? We're just creating this big, like you said, monster that gets into those 90 days terms instead of the 30.
Yeah. And two, like, will they pay it back? But to me, that would be the scary part. Like, when that 90 days comes, I'm going to need it. I'm going to need them to pay.
And they
Because
get all that money back from us. It's they're just putting our product and they're doubling.
they're doing a 50% to 100% markup on the product and they're selling it the day you drop it off. The hook manufactured. And I love dispensaries. I help open dispensaries. My clients, I train them to make sure they pay their bills on time and to make sure they pay people back. And if they can do COD, do COD. So it's a challenge. I'm not sure how if it's going to get fixed or what's going to happen or how people are going to adjust it. But because you are just starting off, I understand why you have to do it because you're trying to get on all the shelves.
Yes, and the interesting thing, it's the big companies that are the ones taking a longer time to pay, and then you'll have the pop and mom shop that pays you as you drop off that item. It's I don't know what's the difference in why a big company has to wait so long to cut that check, and a smaller company pays right away.
The only thing I could think of, and I'm not an expert in this area, for why these big companies with multiple licenses, why they don't pay the small operators. for 90 days. I do know people use corporate business models. I don't know.
If they do it to the large companies too, or just to the
Yeah.
small companies that take that long to pay.
The chatter I'm seeing online is they do it to a lot of people.
Oh,
Yeah, they're not just doing it to small businesses. They do it. I know a lot of manufacturers are really set up in general. Even larger manufacturer companies in Colorado are fed up with the big chains just owing so much money, hundreds of $1,000s in orders. I want to talk a little bit about your product line because you are producing this authentic Mexican flavors. Can you talk a little bit about the spice that you're using? And then also, are you going to be introducing me anything new and any kind of new product lines coming down the road? Any new gummies or anything else that you're working on?
yes, you know that, Jenny, already. I still have to add more stuff to my plate. Our gummies are made using our authentic Mexican flavors, more like the tamarindo chamoys,
Yeah.
that chili, more representing of the Mexican fruit cup that you're going to be enjoying. And I'm using all those authentic flavors. I have a flavor advisor, which is my mom, that helps me.
All
She
right.
helps
Mom, go
doesn't make
mom.
yes, but she helps me over the phone, and she's like, what if you make this or what if you add this? And that's like the kind of flavors that we don't want to lose. The
Like,
mom, the authentic flavors, because my flavors, like I said, we move out of mm, where home is. So it's more like you start losing that flavor, but it's no, I want that authentic flavor. And I think that's something that we bring into the cannabis industry on our edible. It's a product that you're going to enjoy. And yeah, we have 4 flavors, but every flavor is totally different. We combine it with its terpenes so that way it could give that kind of high that you're looking for because a lot of them it's distillate. So how do you focus on creating that sativa, the hybrid, and the indica? Um, with the gummy, everybody's enjoying the gummy that we have right now. But also, as we've been 11 months in the market, we've learned also a lot from our consumer. We've learned that they enjoy our tamarindo chamois
mm,
when it's by itself, when it's not even infused. I provide samples on pop ups on I have to think how do you market your product. So I offer fruit samples with our sprinkled with our tamarindo chamois and chili flakes that are used in our gummy. That way they can taste that flavor that they're gonna have on that gummy once they try it. So when we're trying that, a lot of great feedback. So I think that's one of the products that we're working on right now with research and development and bringing that tamarindo chamois. It's a syrup that you'll be able to put it in your fruit, or even I heard you could put it on rice, chicken wings, on anything you can think of.
getting you a copy.
Or maybe something ice or cold. That would be even better because it's more like a kind of the spicy syrup that you'll be able. And then also realize that consumers are that demographic of 35 plus woman, which I also would like to enjoy a 5 milligram gummy instead of the 10 milligram gummy that we're offering right now. Lower dose, and they could consume it more throughout the day, and they could flavor that gummy even more. We notice also that there is none of our other Mexican flavors, more like a creamy type of gummy. We see just the focus on the fruit flavor. But we're doing also the research and development on creating a flavor of fresas con crema gummy, a mazapan, and a coconut gummy.
Ooh, coconut? That sounds so good. I love that too that you do the non THC samples so people can taste them without the infusion of cannabis in them. You're getting customer feedback. And like, how do you go about doing that? Are you just talking to the dispensaries and they're just giving you the feedback about hers?
Also, yes, I have a lot of in person contact when I go do those pop ups at their dispensary. So, do the introduction and see how they think about new products that I'm thinking of. And also pass that information exactly like you said to the dispensary and to the bud tenders and see what kind of feedback they get back from the consumers. Then, once I'm back into their dispensary again on the pop up, we're able to meet and then they could tell me this is what we thought. We've talked to so many customers, and this is the feedback we have. And it's just creating that momentum, that excitement to in reference. So what new product is Bacha going to be introducing to us? Because they already enjoy the ones that we're offering, but they just enjoy that they want to know what other innovation we have.
Yeah, I like that too. Here's a mistake I think people make is that they forget about the bartender relationship. So I like that you're building relationships with the bartenders. I would recommend that everybody do that because they're the ones that are selling your product. And it is important to spend time with them. You're like educating them, right? You're talking about your product, and if they have any questions, they can talk to you. And I love that you're doing the pop ups too. I think those are so important, doing a pop up and getting out there in front of the customers. Did your mom ever come to town?
She hasn't, but she should be visiting soon.
Okay, when she visits, I think you should make her a t shirt that says flavor advisor on it. So like we come to your facility, she'll have flavor advisor on her shirt with your logo, and that way everybody knows she's the one. She's the spice consultant. I love that you do that with your mom. I think that's so cool. One of my other questions: how are you approaching your marketing strategy right now until you are ready to bring on somebody to help you with everything?
That's where we're at right now with the marketing. Like I said, I do everything myself. I started by creating the website myself. I'm learning how to do that. Also, our social media, how to keep our social media active and not be taken down to and not lose that. So it was like, okay, I think I'm ready to let that duty and find someone else to take over, which I did find Thrive Pop that helped me create my website. They were the ones that put that website to be more into the consumer type of the brand instead of me generating one through Wix. And it was just like the basic. It did have my products, but it was not appealing. So that helped us with sales for the dispensary to see the website, to see an actual visual of our products. So that's working with marketing. And now we're like, okay, we need help. So it's right now talking to different marketing partners and getting quotes and seeing what kind of services they can provide. We're still not at that big 20% to pay for marketing
Yeah,
expense because I know that it's 20%, but that's going to help extremely with the sales, but we're not there yet. But I think if we make baby steps to get to there, we can. That's the strategy I'm working right now with marketing.
yeah, yeah. And I think when you're first starting off, sometimes you don't have the budget. You spent all your money to get open and operational. But it just depends on how much money you start with and was there even money in the budget for marketing. And I think a lot of too small businesses start off doing it themselves. Or they have someone in their family, they enlist a 21-year-old to come in and help them with some of the social media and posting and all that stuff. I think as you grow and expand, I think you're going to get there because you have such a good brand. How do you go about getting on shelves?
So it's also been a learning process because I didn't know how to do those sales.
Yeah.
But I did start off with emails and then creating just a general email. Then I realized that when I was doing that, sometimes I was not getting any answers back, having to do that phone call,
Yeah.
introducing myself and getting that purchasing manager or the store manager and building that relationship. If I wasn't able to do that, then getting an email and following up. As I was going to, I didn't know I needed which I've heard that you do need like a product catalog. But I was like, I only have two products. That's what I'm introducing to the market, to the cannabis. But I didn't create one. Then I realized that if you only have two products, the dispensaries really don't want to carry your brand. You have to have more than two products so that way you could take a little bit more space on their shelves and then you can create that brand and that consumer returning back. Because with two products, I guess it's harder. So
Yeah.
we learned that way. And then creating the catalog, back to the question on what else do I do? I also was going out to the dispensaries because I wasn't here and back and introducing myself, leaving flyers, leaving stickers. But still, that wasn't creating that because of the website, I think. That wasn't getting me any like phone calls. So
Mm.
then it was like, okay, think outside the box. Like, how do you get into building that relationship if you're using it? So then I put everything together. I printed a catalog, my pricing, created product flyers because Marketing is not just advertising on website or social media. No, it's more than that. Creating the product flyers, creating a description of where the product is, and then think outside the box. I started making fruit or fruit cups, and then
Mm,
taking a side of the tamarindo syrup,
mm-hmm.
and that way going into the dispensaries, give them an idea of what my product is. They get more of the visual, they can taste it, and then from there we can go ahead and maybe do a drop off of samples. And
Oh,
that's how you get into this dispensary. But you still drop off samples. I've dropped off several samples to dispensaries, but then I've never heard from them. And some
mm,
dispensaries, like, could be dropping off up to 30 samples. And it's tough. That's something, another thing that it happens in the cannabis industry, like that. What's it called? Connection, communication, and reference. Okay, I'd sample your product, or it's not going to work at our dispensary maybe in the future, but we never hear nothing like that. It's just the product given, and that's it. Crickets from there.
wow,
Uh,
30's a lot. I've helped my clients reach out for samples or get them connected with people. And a lot of times, some companies are saying, what we like to do is we like to send samples to the purchasing manager first, the owner, and then if you buy our product, we'll send samples to the bartenders. So that's how I heard some people are doing it.
um, maybe I can do that,
Like,
but then the tough thing you get into a product that we have, it's if there's a person that doesn't enjoy the product in that dispensary or is not familiar with or flavors, then I don't hear nothing back or anything, even though they enjoy them, because I've heard that they do enjoy them. But then from there, it's nothing in reference. So that's
yeah.
another tough one for us coming with that. If we're reaching that community, also, the dispensary might not have someone that speaks Spanish that can help my consumer. So maybe they're
Mm,
even saying no. So there's a lot of things to take in consideration.
wow.
There's
That is another challenge. And for some, who, if people are listening, like in the state of Colorado, they're allowed to do samples as long as it's a penny. Nothing can be free. So they penny out samples and they send them with orders or whatnot. So the employees or the bartenders, the purchasing manager, or whoever's doing the ordering, they can sample the product to see if they're going to carry it. Sometimes it can feel like a racket to where maybe some dispensaries are taking advantage of that and requesting a large amount of samples, even particularly even knowing that they might not even buy the product, but they were just looking for free samples. So it's like, where do you draw the line? Like, how do you determine, am I being taken advantage of, or actually are they really interested in trying my product? And are they going to carry it? And will they give me feedback too? I really need the feedback. If they say, "Oh, we're not going to try you at this time," can you tell me why? What specifically? Was it the flavor? Was it the effect? Like, it's really important to get that kind of information, not just, "Oh, we didn't like it. Thanks for giving us samples." You need more information. So if you have to make adjustments or to improve, that you have that information.
Yes, we haven't had, actually, nobody said that they haven't liked it, which is good, but still haven't heard back from them. Or we have two dispensaries that said, you know what, we love the flavors, but right now it's not a good time. Let's touch base next month. Or, you know what, right now we're not doing an introduction of new gummy, or we're going through a lot. I see a lot. We're going through changes. We're
Yeah.
getting new management, or we're getting the dispensary is changing name. So that was one of the toughest thing when I started in 2024. I was coming across a lot of those issues. And right
Yeah.
now it's more like the waiting. Right now it's not a good
I'm glad you mentioned that because actually does happen in Colorado a lot where there is new management. There are new owners. They sold the dispensary. Now it's changing hands. And now it's all of a sudden like you were so close to where they were going to order. And now it's like it could take 6 months. Go back 3 years ago. Is there any advice that you would give yourself that would help you today where you're at? Is there anything that you can look back and say, gosh, I wish I had known this, or I would have told myself to do this differently? Like, what advice would you say? Hey, Beatrice,
time.
here's
Don't
some
do it.
advice.
Lots of things I would tell her, but most of the things I would tell her, I'm proud of what she's doing.
Oh, I
I'm
love
glad
that.
that she didn't, that, what can I say? I would tell Beatrice that I'm proud of what she's doing, that I'm glad that she lost that fear and embraced her past, right? Because I had to do that. I had to embrace my past in order that I could do what I'm doing and continue with my future. And I would tell her that don't do it because you're going to be doing things that you are not really comfortable doing. Like I said, talking in front of a lot of people, that's one of the things that always just takes over me. Just because I think I always give that high expectation of what you do all the time. But I would say that it takes for this industry, it takes way a lot more than what you think of. Maybe to a person that has that financial behind them, they could come into this industry and maybe take over. But if you come from the background where I come from with anything, it's going to be tough, but don't lose your focus and just be true to yourself and don't forget the mission and the vision of what you have.
Wow. I would say that was beautifully said. So I loved it. And you definitely should be proud of yourself. My goodness, what a journey that you've been on. And I'm so excited to watch you thrive and grow and continue your journey in the cannabis industry. And I really appreciate your time today. I hope this episode helps anyone who is listening who might be thinking about opening their small business and just the challenges and take Beatrice, her really amazing story and all the different things that she's been going through for the last 3 years to get this dream going and to keep it alive and to keep growing her business. So thank you so much for being my guest today. I'm so excited that you came on.
No, Jenny, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. I love this
Yeah.
kind of interviews where you just maybe I talk too much when I get too comfortable, but it's just sharing your story and for, like you said, for other people that are out there and listening to it to get an idea, just like the way I still listen to many, and just gives you an inspiration to keep on going.
Yeah, I think real stories and being authentic is really important. I think that's what connects with people. Nobody wants to sit and listen to things that are made up. So I think just having conversations with real people going through real challenges and I think those are the things that are easiest for people to connect with as a human. I really do appreciate you. And I just want to let my listeners know that you can find this podcast streaming on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music. I think we recently just added Pandora Radio, as well as my YouTube channel, which is Under the Microscope with Jenny. I'll have Beatrice, her information on her website posting the links on both the YouTube channel and the listening app for those that are listening and not watching. Thank you to everyone for joining me today.
Thank